Ladies and gentlemen, Roster Watch Nation, welcome back to the epic Roster Watch podcast brought to you by rosterwatch.com. I'm Alex Dunlap here with Cody Carpentier and the Trash Man as we are here to discuss some players that we might be avoiding in these early best ball and season-long varieties of fantasy football leagues. So Cody has called this top 9 fantasy football ADP busts. Fade these players at ADP in 2024. It could turn out through the course of the offseason that, positions on these players could change and things certainly could change. But as of right now, we are seeing ADPs begin to cement themselves around certain players, and you find yourself kind of off of certain guys. And so that's who we're going over today. Hope everybody had a safe Memorial Day weekend, and we're back at it here with the pod feed. Boys, Cody, you about ready to move down to your new humble abode?
Hey man, about 16 hours. I gotta go pick up this U-Haul, and then it's on. So we should be moved in Friday.
You could be hiring movers, or you gonna do the He-Man stuff? Just toss that refrigerator on your back and.
Yeah, I've been packing steady for I think the last probably 6, 7, 8 days. So I think I got about 80% of the stuff packed. It's just more so about putting the U-Haul and getting going. So I'm excited.
Wait, where are you moving?
Moving from Roanoke, Virginia, down to Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Charleston.
So it's a good move.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah, dude. Charleston's sweet. All right. Fades. Who you fade? Can I just start you guys out by asking this? And this isn't a guy that I'm fading. I'm still taking him. But dude, Drake London has gotten expensive. Like, can we just have a discussion about the fact that he's creeping up to the 1-2 turn now? I see that the ADP on Underdog is now at 14.7, and I feel like that takes some trailing ADP data into account. I see him go at the 1-2 turn now. I see Drake London go at the 1-2 turn, and I can buy it. I can understand it. I know that there's not an offense out there that's going to have a bigger philosophical shift, right, as far as the way that they do things, thanks to Kirk Cousins. We know that Kirk Cousins can support this elite usage from his wideouts. We know that the people around him, Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, this type of player, you don't fear them as far as target shares and all the rest of it. And so for me, look, I'm baking that into the projection. I think it's important to bake that into the projection. We had this conversation about dynasty and the dynasty rankings about Bijan Robinson, about how you just need to take into account the change in the offense, right? When comparing him vis-a-vis Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think you do need to do that with Drake London, and it's a substantial boost for a guy that's super talented coming out. And a guy from an efficiency basis actually has had pretty good numbers. But is it starting to – this isn't one of my fades, but as I was looking –
It's not?
No, I'm just like, well, no, because I think he's one of these guys that actually could really bite you.
Just fade him.
You want to fade.
Just fade him then. Take the leap.
Well, so you think he's gotten too expensive?
No,
100%.
I'm just saying you should. If this is one of your opinions on him, then you. I mean, and
He's gotten expensive, dude.
It's like, how can I say to fade this guy without saying to fade this guy? I mean, it's basically what you're getting at.
But I'm still taking him. I mean, because that's the thing. I mean, I'm still taking him right there. Maybe not in best ball. In this here, all right.
He's too expensive, but I'm going to take him in.
I'm asking you guys if you feel like if that feels a little expensive to you.
I think it is. I think it's jumped a little bit.
But,
at one point we were talking about the mid to late second round. Just 2 months ago, he's jumped up. It looks like 4 picks over the course of the last month. So you're talking about, at 19, 20, it feels like a good area. You're getting him at like receiver 12, receiver 13, 14. Now he's jumped all the way up to receiver 10, and it's him competing with Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson. Those are the next 2 guys in front of him. So, like, as far as the targets go, as far as the offense having more output, like, yeah, it all lines up. It all makes sense. But they also have this thing called one of the best running backs in football. They also have Kirk Cousins coming off of an Achilles. So we're not sure if it's going to be a 600 pass attempt offense or if it's going to maybe go up to like 520, 530. And then you also have guys around him like Kyle Pitts, who's had a good OTA so far, and you've heard positives about. And they also brought in Rondale Moore and Darnell Mooney. So it's like there's guys there. I think Drake London is going to be the alpha. I think Drake London is going to have 140 targets. We've talked about that 2 months ago. But when you start getting into this top 10 conversation, you got to be a bona fide target or a bona fide what we've seen out of AJ Brown, what we've seen out of Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got to be like that. Drake London needs to take that step forward.
I mean, but really, what other guy in that kind of position could have the kind of upside that London could have?
That's why I'm not off of him.
Like, to me, that's why I'm not. It's not a fade to me. It's the upside is palpable.
He's getting expensive, and if he gets more expensive, we're going to start having an issue here on our hands for sure. All right, but here my main point is this: I looked at London, but then kind of in that same area, right? We have these guys going, and we know that in redraft it's going to be different. It's going to be different than this. But I see Brandon Ayuk, and I look at Brandon Ayuk going mid-second round, right? And I see Nico Collins, who has fallen from where he was, but still going mid to late sort of second round in best ball. And I think what's going to happen here is that whenever redraft season occurs, what we're going to see is these running backs that are being taken, like Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, that level of running back, maybe even the Travis Etiennes of the world. Those guys in redraft managed leagues are going to go second round. Derrick Henry, Cody, you can write that down right now. Whenever we start doing the cheat sheet tests for the redraft sheets for managed leagues, you wait and see. Derrick Henry, people are not going to pass up Derrick Henry playing for the Ravens in the second round. They just aren't going to. Not in home leagues, but in these best ball leagues, we're just seeing these wide receivers there get pushed up because people know that they can take a guy like Derrick Henry, third round, Rashad White, fifth, sixth round, stuff like that. We've talked all about this stuff, just how cheap right now you can get Kenneth Walker and Joe Mixon and, Pacheco and this sort of second group of dudes like the DeAndre Swifts of the world, the Najee Harrises, or the, Jonathan Brooks, Zamir White, Zach Moss, James Conner, all those guys, right? They feel really appealing later. And that's what's making these dudes move up a little bit. But still, you're still talking about it. Even if you're not talking about it cross-positionally, you're still talking about, drafting Drake London as the wide receiver 10. I do think that Brandon Ayuk, though, as the wide receiver 13, whether he's going to be second round in redraft or what, he's firmly in the middle of the second round right now. I don't find myself ever getting him. And I think it's for two reasons. So this will be the first guy on my list. Although Nico Collins,
I was going to say I wasn't sure if it was the other 19 guys you just listed off. I wasn't sure which angle you.
Brandon Ayuk. Okay, first reason, I don't think he gets traded. Right, I don't think he does. But gosh, if he gets traded to, what if you take him in the mid-second round and he gets somehow traded to Carolina or New England or, some situation like this? You just really feel like you're left holding the bag. And the second thing is, I don't care that they drafted Ricky Pearsall. I'm not worried about him coming in and dominating targets and stuff. I just worry about the fact, what if something happens to where all their guys stay healthy? What if Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey all stay healthy? I know that Brandon Ayuk's really good, and he's turned into an awesome actual football player. And I think that that's crept into people, and he plays for a really good team, and they're so efficient and they're so good. And he had a big season last year, and I get it. I'm just not sure if it's repeatable if everybody stays healthy. And to me, I'm like, aren't you guys taking Chris Olave and stuff over Ayuk?
Yeah.
Like, am I crazy for this? I'm trying to look at the actual ADPs of where they are right now. As far as guys going after Ayuk right now is Olave. There's like what about Devontae Adams vis-a-vis Brandon Ayuk?
Adams.
Yeah,
I kind of think just based on pure target volume, it's going to be bad quarterback play, but who else are going to? Devontae Adams is just one of the elite target earners of the last half decade. It's just it's hard. It's just Ayuk is just hard for me. I wouldn't say I love him as a player. I just he's a guy that he's obviously being taken early for a reason. The ADP seems too high though. Cody, who do you got?
I'm going to stay at the wide receiver position and kind of in that same ballpark at wide receiver is is Malik Neighbors. Neighbors is right now going off wide receiver 20. He's 28th overall. I love the prospect of Malik Neighbors. I love everything he brings to the table. But everybody that's going off the board around him right now, whether it's Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman, all these guys profile in a way that we've seen them succeed in the NFL. 1,000+ yards. They're the main target getter. Devonta Smith can do it even with an alpha in the same offense. And Malik Neighbors is in this Giants offense that we hope can take a step forward. We hope they can create. We hope he can become a Jamar Chase. We hope he can do this stuff. And I'm just nervous it's not going to happen as a rookie. We've been so gifted the last couple of years with this rookie classes of these receivers that have dominated early on in their career. And Neighbors profiles as a guy that should be able to do that. But in this Giants offense with Daniel Jones or Drew Lock, I don't trust it whatsoever. And if I'm sitting there on the board and I'm trying to build a roster with the second round pick, second or third round pick, I should say, I'm just not ready and I'm just not trustworthy in that profile as a rookie. I'd rather spend it on a Michael Pittman or a DJ Moore or
you
Stephon
can't
Diggs.
take Pittman over. You can't take Pittman over Neighbors. Come on. Are you?
I'll take Pittman over Neighbors. I'll take Pittman over Neighbors.
Oh, we got to make some. You want to bet a couple Jimmy John sandwiches? A couple of your famous Chick-fil-A sandwiches that you put together.
Yeah, I want 2 breakfast Chick-fil-A chickens. I want 2 breakfast Chick-fil-A chickens.
I do want to bet some Jimmy Johns on Gibbs outscoring Bijan this season.
All right, so let's do that one, and let's bet in Jersey Mike's because Jersey Mike's is better than Jimmy John's these days.
I can't eat any of it.
2 Jersey Mike's, okay, for you, Trash Man. That Bijan Robinson and PPR outscores Gibbs because that will happen. I'm just
Trash Man has Gibbs.
Yes,
right?
you have Gibbs and Cody. You and I want two of the Chick-fil-A breakfasts where how you have them make it, where you get sausage, egg, cheese with one of your chicken things on top. I want 2 of those. Okay.
And this is Pittman versus Neighbors.
Yes, in PPR.
There it is.
Dude, how can you take Pittman after they got Adonai Mitchell there and we expect Josh Downs to take a step forward and stuff? You're the one who hates Adonai Mitchell so much because you think Anthony Richardson can't provide the target volume. I hate Adonai. I don't think I hate you were the
Adonai
one.
Mitchell.
You were the one telling me that Jalen Polk can out target him by 40.
That was a good piece of content. That was a good piece of content right there. No, I think Jalen Polk is just set up in New England to get targets, and that's just going to provoke opportunity. But Again, I love Neighbors, but when you're looking at this situation, he might have 160 targets. That doesn't mean he's going to have 160 receptions. Doesn't mean he's going to score a boatload of touchdowns. I don't feel good at all about Daniel Jones or Drew Lock. I think that's the main point right here. And yeah, I'm even betting, I'm taking the side of Anthony Richardson, who's a rushing quarterback, who's had a shoulder problem, I get that. And they added weaponry in Indianapolis, but Indianapolis could be a good offense. And as much as we like Adonai Mitchell, he's also a rookie. It takes a little bit of time for all these guys to get going, and it didn't take him much time at Georgia. But I like Michael Pittman in this offense, and you know what? Head to head, I'll take my odds.
A couple of questions in the chat about these bets. Is it points per game or overall points? I guess it's points per game when we've done it in the past, right? It's the fantasy points per game. PPR. We can do it overall.
If that's the case, then Gibbs has already beaten Bijan.
Come on, Trash Man. We're talking. You have to. It's the Drake London thing. You guys. All right. So all right. Overall, fine. Overall, and then Anthony in the chat had he has a good point here. He says people pushing up Ayuk to week 17, Gibbs ARSB. So it's the week 17. Correlation there. Let me pull up my schedule sheet just to make sure. I have the schedule sheet, the schedule, the environmental factors sheet up at rosterwatch.com. And yeah, so that is the week 17 matchup that is in San Francisco. And so what he's saying is that people are building week 17 correlation right now. And it actually makes a lot of sense with how it works. To about where Gibbs and Amon-Ra are going. Amon-Ra is actually creeping up a little bit right now, but you could take one of those guys as your first round pick, right, and then correlate them coming back with your second round pick with Brandon Ayuk and get the back and forth, right, the back and forth duel where those guys are really featured in the in the final week of the big underdog tournaments. So good point there from him. Trash man, I can't believe it. Pittman would be one of my. Let me just put it out there. It's like Pittman's like a fade for me. That's crazy talk. Trash man. Who do you got?
I got Rome Odunze. I mean, like,
why are we the two studliest rookies, man? Like
it's the same reason I faded JSN last season.
Well, it's the
same reason, and rightfully so.
Shane Waldron,
the third, the sick third wide receiver that comes in with two established veterans.
Rightfully so. I mean, it's the same situation. Why would I not fade him when I can get guys like?
Because you can have Rome Odunze, dude. You could have him on your team.
You can get Cortland Sutton.
Sick.
You could have Jamison Williams.
Cortland Sutton? Are you into Sutton?
I mean, as the lead receiver for the Broncos, yes.
With Bo Nix, with like the lowest average depth of target of any of these.
Peyton already loves Bo Nix.
Well, of course he loves Bo Nix. He says he sees the same upside in him as he saw in Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and he said that he's farther along than most rookies at this point. I know you hate Bo Nix,
of course he's farther along. He's been in college 7 years.
Okay, so like, why are you hating on him so much?
What?
I mean, it's just like there's the rationale for it eludes me, especially considering what he's done so far and how Peyton is evaluated.
They want to trade him away.
Who are you talking about at this point?
Sutton.
No, I'm talking about Bo Nix.
Okay. Well, they don't want to trade him away. You would rather have Cortland Sutton over Rome Odunze?
Yes.
So you're letting your priors stick with you about all your Michael Penix love, but they just can't stick with you for your Rome Odunze love.
I mean, okay, I'll name some other guys too. I mean, Singletary. I'd rather have Singletary than Odunze.
You said Jamison Williams a second ago. You would take Jamison over Odunze?
Yes.
I sent that in our group chat a couple of days ago with that Dan Campbell thing, and it was like a timeline of all the comments he's ever made about Jamison, and it feels like potentially we came out of the combine with it's bust. This is what bust sounds like, and now it sounds like he's potentially got everything dialed in.
I'm coming around a little bit on Jamison. I mean, it's like he's a hard guy to quit, man. Even though it's you know.
I mean, it's just like I love Odunze as a prospect, but to me it's the same as JSN last season. In fact, JSN was a better prospect.
There certainly are a lot of similarities. And speaking of JSN, whenever they asked him, I forgot who it was he was on with, but it was maybe somebody at the Super Bowl or I don't know, one of these things wherever they were. Do you remember? And they asked him what advice he has for the Bears wide receivers or whatever now with Shane Waldron, and he just kind of like did a no comment kind of thing. You know, he's just I don't think he liked that experience very much. So maybe Rome won't either. I don't think that Kyren Williams is going to love the presence of Blake Corum. I don't. I worry that, you know, as far as where Kyron's ADP is right now, I do think there were times last year when you would see McVay and he'd be like, you know, it felt like it was always Kyren Williams or always Puka Nacua that he was going, he was like running out of the locker room and going to try to give him the game balls and stuff like that. And you felt like, dude, this guy has arrived. This dude's a core member of the team. Nothing could shake it. But dude, now they're already talking about, and I know it's the rookie minicamp stuff and the stuff that comes out of there is very focused on these rookies. But man, it really seemed truthful that, you know, McVay, Snead, these dudes are saying we're working with Corum to make sure that he can develop a good 3-down skill set. We need to keep our quarterback upright. We need to make sure that he's good without the ball in his hands, all this stuff like that. Those were all things that were sort of notches on the pros side of the ledger there for Corum coming out. And the fact of the matter is I didn't really notice it much during the process, but Corum There in ways he kind of reminds me of Kyren Williams to a certain extent. Not that Kyren Williams is a prospect, but what we've seen of Kyren Williams at the NFL level, that's kind of what Corum looked like playing last year for Michigan. So he's a professional running back. He's good. He's going to come in and he's going to play. Now, whether he bites off 25% of the opportunities, whether he bites off 40% of the opportunities, those are things that we need to figure out in projection. But when I just look at it, and in best ball, certainly, it's just, to me, there's just such a gap between where I see Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, and Jonathan Taylor to where I see Kyren Williams and to a certain extent Devon Achane. But Kyren is the one that I'm more worried about right now. The ADP's position across positionally between running back and wide receiver. You have Jonathan Taylor now being taken early second, Saquon Barkley, same thing, early second. Then Kyren being taken now right at the 2-3 turn. So he's fallen a little bit. Achane right there at the 2-3 turn. They're going off the board at the same time as guys like Mike Evans, Jalen Waddle, Stephon Diggs, these types of players. And to me, it's gosh, I feel so very much more comfortable with in any of the top three: McCaffrey, Bijan, Breece Hall, and then Gibbs, Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. To me, it just feels like there's such a drop off between those guys. And if I'm going to be taking, like, am I taking crazy pills here to think that that I take Kyren Williams, I'm taking him 7-8 spots ahead of where Derrick Henry's going? Is Derrick Henry is Kyren Williams going to go ahead of Derrick Henry in our season-long managed leagues, or is this just galaxy brain best ball bro nonsense?
No. This is all best ball, man. You know how these receivers are. We talked about the receivers earlier. That we've talked about the 0 RB strategy. That's all best ball strategy. And you know damn well when the seasonal stuff comes around, these running backs all get.
Your buddy from college is going to say, "I need to get my running back first." Like, it's just it's gonna happen. Derrick Henry might go with the 1-2 turn in your home league. You know what I mean? Like, it's just those are the same with dude. Josh Jacobs is going to go second round. It's gonna push some of these dudes down, and I think that the prime dude, people are gonna look at Achane. They're gonna be like, "Man, he was hurt last year. How many games did he even play?" They're bringing in a new fast rookie. You know, they're looking at Kyren Williams, and then they're going to say, dude, they brought in a wide running back that looks just like him. So I think right now you're paying prices in best ball that are probably the same prices that you're going to be paying in your home leagues for running backs, and you should like that. That doesn't make any sense to me. So Kyren is my second nomination. Cody.
My second one, I'm going to go to running back too. And you brought this guy's name up earlier, someone you bought, so you're going to hate this, or someone that you like, so you're going to hate this. Zach Moss. I'm not a big fan of this Zach Moss at RB26 thing. He's a top 100 pick. We saw last year the opportunity arise in Indianapolis with a great offensive line. I know Cincinnati spent money on the tackle position. They've started to regrow this offensive line. It's a pass happy offense. You know, Chase and Higgins are going to get paid. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to run the football, but they do still have, and this is going to sound stupid, but they do still have Chase Brown in that offense. They do still have a number of guys that they've drafted year over year on the roster. And yes, they paid Zach Moss $4 million per year. It's hard for me to get past what we're used to, what we've seen out of Zach Moss the last, 3 years before last year when he didn't have the great offensive line. And when you start talking about a top 30 running back, a top 24 running back, he's at the point right now. I'm just not there on the ability for Zach Moss to really pay off as a top 24 back, as a pure RB2. And I get it right now on the depth chart. He might be RB1 for some people. But as the comment says right there at the bottom, it's going to be a good 1-2 punch. It's going to be a good, tandem in the backfield. But who's got the juice? The juice belongs to Chase Brown. Chase Brown did it at Illinois. He has the ability to take on upwards of 300 carries. Didn't do it at the Senior Bowl, and that's where our bias comes in. Is that we did see at the Senior Bowl him completely fall flat on his face,
literally,
literally,
yeah.
But I like what I saw of Chase Brown last year, and I don't want to call Zach Moss like the Mike Davis situation of a couple years ago, but it's just it's one of those things, man. You look at the offense, you look at where he's at, and the expectations of where he's being drafted right now. Running back 26. If I'm in a situation where I have to have a running back, I get it. But in that area, it's a little too rich for me.
Are we now officially on board with the narrative that the Tony Sperano Jr. insertion into the Colts organization as offensive line coach brought that offensive lines? But we're talking about like the fact that a guy ran behind them and looked like he had a career renaissance. It could have been done to the fact that offensive line's awesome. Are we back to saying that the Colts offensive line's awesome?
Yeah, man, they had some injuries that kind of made them. That made everyone come to the front and say, "Oh, this offensive line's overrated." Quentin Johnson dealt with his number of injuries. Ryan Smith dealt with injuries. Like, they've dealt with injuries, but they've been able to draft athletic guys that have come in and grown in this offense. So I think this offensive line is still back up into that top 6, probably top 5 at the offensive line position.
I can't wait to get those rankings up in July. It's always a cool part of the process and getting those cheat sheets dialed. Again, I updated the Best Ball cheat sheet to version 2.5 yesterday. If you guys want to check that out. Also, if you want to check out the schedule grid, just can I tell you guys just two quick things from the schedule grid at the very top. And this is not strength of schedule, right? We'll have that up later, but this does go into the overall strength of schedule as far as the environmental factors, where we just calculate for dome games out versus outdoor games, and then account for international games and or games for international travel, and then late season outdoor. So the best schedule by far, as far as the environment for these teams. And it's always going to be like the guys at the top of this list are always going to be the dome teams, right? Because they get half their games in a dome. We love dome games. But Detroit, they play all their away games in a dome too, dude. It's crazy. They don't play an outdoor game until week 9 at Green Bay, and then week 10 at Houston, week 11 at home versus Jacksonville, week 12 at Indy, week 13 at home versus Chicago, week 14 at home versus Green Bay, week 15 at home versus Buffalo. Not until the last 2 games of the year do they go back outside again. They play outside 3 times next season, which to me is just insane. 3 outdoor games all year for the Detroit Lions. Speaking of Jameson Williams and Trash Man's Jahmyr Gibbs and all the guys, just so good. The other one is at the very bottom of the list, the worst schedule. Again, this is just from the environmental perspective, right? We're going to take into account the Vegas win totals. We're going to take into account the week by week game script projections based on the Circus Sportsbook early lines, and of course the personnel projections of the defense, right? With our scouting grades and the draft capital and the effectiveness and the efficiency of the players that are going to be stopping the run, defending against the pass, and with both wide receiver, tight end, etc. And the guys rushing the passer as it pertains to quarterbacks. But just from a pure environmental perspective, the New York Jets are swindled this year. Just swindled. They have 1 dome game in week 10 at Arizona, and they also have a week 5 international game. All of their late season games are all every single one except one they have at at Miami and at Jacksonville aren't terrible for late season, but a bunch of bad weather stuff, like going to at Buffalo and having to play there at home twice in the late season. The Jets only 1 dome game next season, whereas the Lions only 3 games outside of a dome. Just a stark difference in those two. Okay. Trash Man, did you say your next fade?
No.
Sorry.
It's Cody's boy, Jerome Ford.
Trash Man wants to fade schedule talk. All right. What about Jerome Ford?
I mean, people are acting like he's going to be the number 1 back there in Cleveland again this season, and he's not. And even if Nick Chubb doesn't start out the season, it's still not Jerome Ford's backfield. He's being drafted ahead of guys like Antonio Gibson, ahead of guys like Blake Corum, and I just don't agree with it. I don't think Ford is the guy. I don't think Ford is that guy. I'm not interested in him where you can get him. He's at RB40 right now, I believe, but that's still too high for me.
He's a mid player, but you're paying him kind of mid price for him. I don't hate Drew. I think there's going to be some value to be mined in the Cleveland thing that mainly just has to do with Chubb. But I do think, as I told Cody, by the end of the year with that guy, you're going to feel swindled. Like Chubb's going to come back. He's not going to be very good, but they're still going to play him a bunch. And by the end of the season, he'll be doing fine. Deontay Foreman's going to swindle you to a certain degree, right? I think that the whole thing with Ford, we've seen it. I'm not. There are too many.
I'm just not taking ahead of somebody like Antonio Gibson, who has.
I don't
think
love Antonio Gibson either.
I don't love him, but I mean, I'm just looking at the upside. Where
people
are
still taking Ramondre Stevenson too high. He's a fade for me. He's always a fade for me. Cody, you got one last one.
There's Alex's fade number 17 on the. Sorry, I just had to write that down quick.
That's fine. I'm fading Pittman. I'm fading Ramondre Stevenson. I'm fading Nico Collins. I'm fading Brandon Ayuk. I mean, you have them all written down.
Fade is gonna fade. Fade is gonna fade.
I like that. I'll give you one here, but I'm just gonna rip a Band-Aid off quick. Is Jaden Reed too high? Is Jaden Reed a little too high?
He is, man. Like, and we were the
maybe Dontavian Wicks is too low.
Yeah. Well, that was I had to make that. Is Wicks now officially going ahead of Romeo Doubs? Like, has that now happened? Has that switch happened? Let's see. No, not at all. So Doubs is 110.2. Overall, Wicks is 131 still. But on the cheat sheet, I looked at it and I saw that Wicks was a little bit under Doubs just because I don't want to break ADP too badly. I want to make sure that we're leveraging it at all points. But I said, I don't care. Right? I don't care. What I need to do is just move Romeo Doubs down under Wicks and move Wicks up a tiny bit, right? So we can still try and get Wicks at relative value, but there's no way in just in a vacuum I'm taking Wicks over Romeo Doubs, right? And so why not make it to where it's like Doubs is buried and maybe get a little bit higher on Wicks for sure. But yeah, it's just like there's a whole lot there. And Christian Watson's whenever he plays, he's good too. I mean, so I think it's gonna be tough, dude. It's gonna be, Reed's an awesome player. We were all over him last year. I'm personally in my dynasty leagues. I've been kind of trying to shop Reed during my rookie drafts and stuff. It feels like he's valued a little bit more than the volume that we can project for him.
I'm not against that. But the name I wanted to rip off was that one. Sorry. The name I wanted to list was Zamir White, going at running back 21 right now. He's in that top 24 that I talked about a minute ago, going around Najee Harris, Jonathan Brooks, DeAndre Swift. You mentioned Stevenson. He's ahead of Zach Moss. But when you look at that offense, they went out and they finally got an interior offensive lineman in Jackson Powers Johnson of value in round 2. The interior is still kind of in a tough spot with Andre James and Dylan Parham, who aren't the greatest on the right side right there. They brought in a receiving option in Brock Bowers. They still have Adams out there. In the backfield, the best pass-catching running back in the class, Dylan Lobby. And Alexander Madison's not great, but he's good enough. I'm not buying the Zamir White hype. And right now, an underdog where you can see him going off, like I said, running back 21 puts him at 68th overall, 99th overall oh my God, I reread that wrong. 83rd overall. He's jumped up 16 spots in the last month and a half. 16 spots on underdog. And when the season comes around and these running backs get pushed up, he's only going to go higher and higher. And you're going to be looking at Zamir White in that round 5, round 6 area in this Las Vegas offense with this bad offensive line, not scoring points. I'm out on Zamir White.